So ladies and gentlemen, the topic of this panel discussion is the DNA of successfully disruptive procurement organization, delivering the right priorities at the right pace for your business. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our moderator firstly on stage. So here I welcome Mr. Ruchir Shrivastava, Director Commercial, Group Commercial, Vedanta Resources Limited. Moderator, everybody, please welcome him. So please take your seat. Now I'll be inviting our speakers for this panel discussion. So let's welcome Mr. Subodh Nagarsekar, Vice President, Procurement and Supply Chain, Rentokil PCI. Now let's welcome our next speaker, Mr. Subodh, Mr. Jitendra Kore, Head, Procurement, Oetiker Group Private Limited. Now let's welcome Mr. Sandeep Pratap, Head Procurement, Eveready Industries India Limited. Now let us all welcome Ms. Savita Gupta, Head Partner Insights, Global Procurement and Strategic Partnerships, AP, Moller, Maersk. Here we invite our next speaker, Mr. Srinivasan Damodaran, Head Procurement, Piramal Finance Limited. And let's welcome Ms. Manisha Singh, Asia Direct Category Sourcing Lead, General Mills. Let us welcome Mr. Miral Mehta, Associate Vice President and Head Procurement and Strategic Sourcing, Coromandel. And now, let's welcome, last but not the least, Mr. Devarajan Iyengar, Head Rapid Deployment, APAC Bio. So, we have all our speakers already on stage. They're wearing the mic. And as I said, the topic of the panel discussion, as you can see, it's already there. So I would really appreciate if you can sit as per your pictures. You can check your pictures at the back, and if you can sit as per that. Yeah? All right. It'll be easier for everyone to recognize you, right?
Where do I go?
Perfect, perfect. Yeah. Okay, so over to our moderator, Mr. Ruchir. Over to you.
Check.
I think, can I take your leave? And over to our moderator, Mr. Ruchir.
So good morning, everyone. It's nice to see a full house early in the morning, despite heavy rains and traffic and all that. So let us start with our first topic, which is disruptive procurement. And I welcome on behalf of the entire organization, the eminent speakers here. And let us quickly start. So, gone are the days when the procurement used to be a lot of pen and paper, EMDs and sealed bids and a lot of manual effort, or a lot of people getting running around. Right from requirements coming in to the RFQs going out, the EMDs and sealed bids coming in, and the stores and whatnot. We've come a long way from that. Technology has taken over. Technology is now at the forefront. We have our people. I'm audible, right? Yeah. So technology has taken up, and we see a lot of different priorities these days, right from tracking the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions to generative AI coming in. So we'll try and cover a lot of things in the panel discussion right now, and then there'll be more sessions which will cover many things we discuss here in detail. So let me start with a question here. Considering the current global dynamics, what would your views be on, let us say, domestic sourcing versus global sourcing? And I invite Sandeep to start the discussion here.
Okay, so in global in sourcing, there is always a dilemma that whether we source from global sources or we should develop local sources. Sometimes because of economy of scale or just because of I come from an industry which is very, very, very important but very small industry, and the supply space globally is very limited. And there are a lot of investment required to start an ecosystem of certain raw materials in different country other than one or two where it is already there. So leaving aside those raw materials where you don't have choice, I always believe that it's always better to source from wherever possible, as near as possible. And that was clearly visible during COVID, when the entire global supply chain got interrupted, I would say. And so that is one view. But at the same time, being in procurement, we need to be very supportive of our business team and very integrated with the business team. So we need to see the not the cost, most the cost competitive, but being in sync with your business team. So you have to take decision based on that.
All right, so I would like Subodh to also add on his views.
Yeah, thanks, Ruchir. So in the current global dynamics, in view of the geopolitical situation, the Russia-Ukraine war, or maybe US-China trade war, each of the organization now is trying to rethink on the sourcing strategy. And though there cannot be a definite answer whether to go for a global sourcing or try to maximize local sourcing, people are now trying to go for something called as a nearshoring or reshoring, wherein we need to have a total control over the entire end-to-end supply chain operations. There are organizations who are trying to focus more on developing your suppliers which are very close to your manufacturing facilities. You may incur you may end up buying at a higher price, but definitely there is going to be more resilience to any market disruptions, in case you are trying to develop a local sourcing. Gone are the days when people used to think global sourcing is going to give them benefit in terms of quality. In recent years, I would say the Indian suppliers have developed their capabilities as a quality supplier, and we can see most of the suppliers now sticking to the global standards. They have improved their manufacturing capabilities in India, with the government also trying to support Make in India concept. We are going to see more and more of local sourcing rather than global procurement. So that's how I look at it.
So, what are your current priorities, or what would be your current priorities of a procurement professional, if you were to?
Yeah, the top priority I would feel under current context would be to deliver value. As a procurement person, we definitely now need to reimagine ourselves. Are we really going to add value to the business on a continual basis? Are we able to build resilience to market disruptions? The outlook now must change from being purely cost focused to be more supportive, more collaborative, more flexible. Yes, as a procurement team, we also need to ensure that we change the entire image of our function. The procurement and supply chain function now needs to be, I would say, portrayed as a function which delivers value to business. So that we can sell any business proposal to our stakeholders very easily. The entire globe is now talking about sustainability. So can we also try to build sustainability as a part of our procurement processes, and how quickly we can do it? Supplier diversity, I think the time has come wherein we really need to relook at our supplier database, need to have some kind of quick decision making, and the need of the hour is to have the right suppliers in place, not the ones who are giving at the most economical or the lowest pricing. We should have the right, when I say right, the most reliable supplier in place. Can we treat our suppliers as our business partners? I mean, not only as suppliers, but can we make them our real business partners? Can we work together and give what the business wants? Invest in automation, digitization. I mean, almost all the companies are doing it. And I mean, one who does it quickly can definitely get the edge in market. Lastly, I would also say, my personal opinion is my team is my strength. So how quickly I'm able to make my team capable of changing themselves or changing the entire procurement process to adapt to the changing scenarios, to adapt to the market fluctuations. If I can do it in no time, that's going to land me in a much superior, much better position than my competitors.
So very nice. I mean, that is interesting. And another interesting thought which comes into mind listening to all that is whether in your organization, does your organization see you as a cost center, or do they see you as a profit center? So how is it working out, Miral?
Yeah. So I mean, we are procurement community, right? So far, unfortunately, I mean, we don't have table on like a CEO level or a CXO level, right? So we are always still being seen as cost center, which is unfortunate. What can we do about it, right? So there are a few approaches. So one is like we have been doing substantial work in terms of assurance of supply, in terms of providing quality materials, in terms of savings, or so many value. So approach should be like we keep highlighting what we are doing in terms of internal stakeholder management, right? So there should be some forum or some frequent communication which we can still do to make people understand that how much value as a procurement community we are adding. But I think it's a challenge also, because everyone has to be on same line, and which is kind of a difficult approach, right? So, and it's kind of red ocean. So another approach which we have just started working in our organization is like because we are connected with external world, with suppliers, with our external stakeholders. So how can we work collaboratively with supplier to bring in more value, to bring in something, let's say, sort of business development? Can we work collaboratively with supplier to bring additional business for the company, right? And the industry which we are operating, it's agro industry, and which is peculiar. So any two customers or any two players could be customer to each other. They are also suppliers to each other, and they are also competing in the same way, right? So there is definitely a possibility that if we work with the right supplier partners and identify some opportunities, we can definitely bring some business for the company. And this is what we are trying to do, because whenever we think about let's say Chinese suppliers, we always think, oh, okay, how can we compete? But we have changed the game. I mean, we are trying to work very collaboratively with Chinese suppliers, because there are so many strengths with Chinese suppliers or Chinese manufacturers. One is, of course, like their speed of execution. It's immense. I mean, none of the even fast-growing Indian companies can match their speed of execution. And also, they have some challenges, like their trade with the US. We know it's not doing well. So can we identify such a partner and work with them to develop some common products, or like Indian manufacturer can do contract manufacturing for this Chinese partner, and then it's like idea is to work collaboratively and bring some more value. So that I think if as a procurement community we are able to do this, we'll be definitely seen as a profit center in I think very near future.
Thanks, Miral. So, just adding some views to it, I mean, as Miral said, probably in some organizations, we still don't get a CXO table or the due respect. I mean, fortunately, in my organization, we do work very closely with the CEO and something which we call as the EXCO, and most of the decisions are in sync with the leadership. So, coming to Srinivasan, is it the same for you?
I kind of beg to differ actually here with what Mehta said. Maybe, see, 5-10 years back, at least in service industry, because I have a huge experience in services industry. So, procurement was always seen as a cost center, maybe 5-10 years back. Yeah. But things have changed currently, and maybe I'll just take an example of my earlier 2 organizations where I worked for, and the current organization also. Even I have heard my CFO saying that we are a profit center, and I would not stop at the procurement in terms of at the sourcing level, but at the operations level also, who's doing the P2P operations also is seen as a profit center. Predominantly for 2 reasons. We also have a KPI in terms of delivering a P&L saving, which is going to hit the P&L directly, like what the businesses do in terms of optimizing their business processes. They do something differently, or learning from the competition, learning from the market, and then driving those changes into the business. Procurement also plays a role, and then we have a hard numbers which is committed as part of our KPIs. And even I would say the P2P operations, to the fact is that I like what Subodh had said in terms of getting into automation does not only kind of give a, that's not staying as a jargon, but that's also bringing in some process efficiency, and then optimizing the manpower which we were to have if we had a manual process, and then doing the additional transactions, processing of when the business grows, the transaction obviously has to grow, and then processing those additional transactions with a lesser manpower, it's nothing but a dollar saved for the organization also. So I think in my view, in services industry at least, procurement is seen as a value driving organization, and then we are also treated as a profit centers. And so as to say, also I would say that wherever we have a joint goal which is identified with the business. So when we drive those cost optimization initiatives, obviously it requires a lot of connect with the CXOs, making them understand that what value add which we could bring onto the table, and without poking the nose into their businesses. So as to say that the collaboration has to be so efficient that my savings should not affect their business, and then it should be kind of a value adding proportion for their business. It should enhance what service they are giving to the customers, and while having said so, also adding some dollar savings to their business, because today eventually everybody is looking at P&Ls in a cuts and slices, in terms of everybody is looking at businesses at the product level, at the business vertical level. So everybody is worried about the P&L in terms of how it is going to impact. And so the people are looking back to procurement in terms of adding value to it, and it might be through alternative sourcing, it might be through supplier consolidation, it might be through negating the spend and then getting into a different solution. So all these could add value to the entire ecosystem, and then we are seen as a profit center. That's my view.
Very valid points.
Ruchir, if I can add to what Srinivasan just said. In my organization, we have a very strong focus on innovation and new product development. So earlier concept was, innovation and new product development was always through marketing, finance, and operations team. But of late, we have been successfully able to convince, without procurement getting involved in any kind of innovation and product development right from stage 1, it's not going to have the desired results. So procurement views are considered at every stage in developing a new product, or when we decide on whether to go for any kind of innovation. So in a way, I'm definitely feeling that procurement is gaining that importance, and it is being nowadays considered as a profit center more than a cost center.
How about you, Sandeep?
So I'll add to, so I can relate to all of the views. And things are changing in last few years, but historically, procurement has been seen as a cost function. The reason to that is most of the industry, what I can, in my opinion, what I can figure out is, in most industry, we first decide what we want to sell and or what we want to manufacture, and then we'll sell, and then we source. So obviously procurement remains the secondary function which derives its works from some other department. While if you look at a small trader, they sell what they can source. And that's how, if you'll see small traders, most of the time procurement is done by the owner. And sales, he keeps people for selling the material. So that's how it depends that what is kind of value we want to deliver. And as an organization, what right now we are changing our focus to be work with our business function and to decide what we want to sell, what we want to, what a new line of business, what in the existing line of business, what we can change through innovation, what Subodh said, how we can decrease cost. And once we are creating value and putting money on the table, definitely we will slowly, we are already getting, but in few numbers, we'll get a seat on table very soon.
Before we move on, Ruchir, I just wanted to add. So very rightly said, and therefore I just wanted to build on it. Today, organizations have started thinking in a way of involving, sourcing at a very initial stages. So I have worked with food FMCG companies, and there it was always considered as a value organization versus a cost organization. And now when there is a new product launch, and if it involves a very typical ingredient or a raw material, it is very imperative that the sourcing heads are involved in the strategic conversation while it is getting developed, to see that it is not about a launch and a small volume or a quantity required in the year one, but as going forward 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line, if the business does well, will the the supply network support the business proposition or not. So it is extremely a value center now, wherein the strategic decision across the organization is taken involving sourcing leaders, and I think that's a very positive change that has happened in the past couple of years. And also after the pandemic and the ocean freight fiasco that we saw in 2022, a lot of organizations which were not doing this has definitely started doing it, wherein they are involving sourcing leaders, taking their opinion, their feedback at a very early stage, so that they are able to integrate the important KPIs in the beginning itself to track and measure how can there be no disruption, how can we build on the scale and benefit and leverage different market opportunities that exist. So that would be my response.
Interesting views. So,
I just want to do a concluding point in that in terms of being a value creator.
Yeah.
The only thing is that if we could relate this to business, so in business what it is that what the customer wants is what you need to provide.
True.
So that I think is true for even a procurement person, that look at your stakeholder, what they need. If you provide them those, then you will be seen as a value creator.
True.
And second is that we could take an example from say our HR or maybe a business excellence teams. They partner with the functions. For example, you have a business HR partner who works with the business. Likewise, you have a procurement business excellence person who gets embedded with the business and then works with. So likewise, I think procurement teams also should be working in a matrix way where some of the resources should be embedded with the business or with the stakeholders to understand their pains and then deliver those values what they.
So they are our internal customers, and customers.
Obviously, so that matrix will help us to deliver those values, and we will be seen as a value creator.
In fact, we have recently started this procurement business partner thing. So it's a really good initiative.
Now shifting gears to another important burning topic which is concerning every business procurement leader is something about the scope 3 emissions. So Savita, I would like to hear from you how you are managing it, and probably even cover scope 1 and scope 2 in a bit.
Sure. So, scope 3 is a challenge because scope 3 emissions are coming to our value chain through our partners, be it on the supply side or the products that we are selling to the customers, right? And why is it a challenge? It is because very little of it is in our control. However, what is in our complete control is scope 1, right? What is it that our operations are generating when it comes to emissions? And then scope 2, in terms of energy that we are buying solely for our use, right? What is the emission coming out of that energy sourcing? So if we have to really manage, however, between scope 1, 2 and 3, of course, the largest share of emissions is always going to be scope 3 because not 100% of our supply chain is in our control, right? Or is energy. And that is the challenge that needs to be managed. I think to manage that challenge, we need to see 3 together rather than seeing scope 3 in silo. And that's what Maersk as an organization has been doing. Our approach is to see with partners, when I say partners, supply partners, right? Where is it that their own emission targets are matching ours? And where is it that we can, collaborate together to get the benefit, right? Wherever it is coming that the gap is pretty big between what our suppliers are targeting or are capable of doing is where we focus on getting the value from scope 1 and scope 2 in those areas, right? Second thing that we are doing is we have really tightened our supplier code of conduct because we have very ambitious targets when it comes to going carbon neutral for all our sales by 2040. And so what we have started doing is segmenting suppliers, right? And figuring out who are those strategic suppliers which are also high risk in terms of the categories, also high risk in terms of locations where they are present or they are sourcing from, right? And get into an arrangement where we do not stop business with them, but what we say is these are the corrective actions that needs to be taken and this is the action plan and this is the timelines, right? And then we monitor it jointly. So it is more like supplier development initiative which is happening on the ESG front to address the scope 3 emissions. I think third thing that has happened, and that was one of the points, right? We did not earlier have a executive level, leadership level sponsorship for suppliers the way we always had for our customers. That's another thing which we have brought in where of course the focus is very high on supplier relationships also so that innovation can happen. Our first methanol run ship, right, or the industry leading methanol ship has arrived at our headquarters yesterday, and then we have 12 of them again coming. I think these are the examples. Not just that, the second is that we are also having hybrid ships coming up soon. So these are the kind of examples where collaboration has led to reduction in emissions, right? And this is only because we could have those suppliers developed and relationships developed. So that's another thing where the initiatives are there. I think a couple of other things, and it's more around, customer centricity. See, we can invest and we can have supplier development initiatives, but there is a cost also associated when we are moving green. So first, we also need to, I think, how scope 3 can also be addressed by walking the talk from the company side on scope 1 and scope 2. And then, showing the suppliers that we mean it, because suddenly procurement has changed its narrative from cost consciousness to value consciousness. While, and that's where the buying from suppliers can be a bit tricky, is where company need to do scope 1 and scope 2 to only inspire suppliers to come on board for scope 3. That's another thing. And then once we have the product ready, I think we need to also ensure that the customers are on board to actually take the services that we are delivering on, which are carbon neutral in nature or low carbon in nature compared to the traditional services that we have been giving. And then I think a lot of focus within the organization is on bringing visibility, because what gets measured gets reduced, optimized, increased, right? We are investing a lot on tech to bring the visibility on what are our emissions, not only for ourselves, but also for our customers and also for our suppliers, right? So I think these are the few things where which we are doing in terms of managing, and not limited to scope 3, but in general emissions.
Very interesting. Coming from the mining background myself, I mean, it's really necessary for us to partner with our business partners and handhold them wherever we can to manage those scope 3. I mean, we can just force them down their throat. I mean, it has to be working together using tech and bringing a lot of change in the mindset, which then brings in the scope 3 in control. So quickly, they have some examples of what are the disruptive initiatives you would have taken recently in the procurement space.
Very, very interesting conversations. Myself, Devarajan Iyengar from Buyer, and thanks to Kamikaze for also making this important to procurement professionals to discuss about not just the classical procurement topics, but also about disruptive topics. I personally feel that we as procurement professionals, especially from India, can be a significant value add, not just from the Indian organizational context, but also look at our services being exported globally offshore from India. And why do I say this? Is because the pandemic has given that opportunity for us. At least in Buyer, we went through a significant operating model change based on organizational requirement. And in that context, we wanted to introduce a disruptive operating model within procurement. So today within Buyer, the procurement function is a global central-led function, which is not based in every country, and it is a hub-spoke node model. And I'm very happy to inform you that we in India got an opportunity to set up an offshore procurement services consulting organization, which is called as Rapid Deployment Team. And this is a kind of a disruptive industry operating model. Why do I say that? Is because this is one of those kind of teams where we are saying that it's not necessary a procurement professional has to be a specialist. A procurement professional can be a generalist who adapts to the ecosystem of subject matter experts to get the information of the subject required, but the sourcing decisions can be inferred based on the ecosystem available, which in turn gives an immense opportunity to not have fixed capacities as subject matter experts only into the line function role, but have flexible resources who could offer value to the organization in terms of upsides in demand and also in terms of cost competitiveness of being a value provider offshore across geographies. Now, that's a very unique kind of a disruptive model that we were able to introduce. We ran it as a pilot 2 years back. We started off with a 5-member team, and I'm very happy to inform that it got stabilized and we scaled it up to 21. And today, this has been looked at as one of those kind of disruptive operational model. The reason I'm stating this with an opportunity perspective is that when we spoke about the cost versus profit center aspect, I would also throw it a spin saying that even within the functional cost of procurement for global organizations, we from India could have a very competitive offer of value beyond just offering to the country organization. So that's just one of the aspects I would like to highlight.
Coming to Jitendra, for your comments on the disruptive one.
Yeah, so the disruptive procurement strategy. So I would like to give you some examples of the COVID, very good examples we have. And the COVID done the best thing that it exposed everyone's limitations, all the barriers, because we were having the contingency plan. In every organization have the contingency plan, this is fallback option, this is the second option, third option, fourth option. But when the real situation happened, first is not working, second is not working, third was not known, and fourth was hanging. So everyone was in trouble. So in this type of situations, when we have the disruptive models, then we can rapidly change over, our system, because we were all the supply chains disturbed, the vessels were not moving, every state has the borders issue, and the factories were not allowed to work. So in this situation, what will work best? The collaborative model or your tested plans. So because I belong to automotive industry, and in automotive industry now everything is risk based. So risk based planning you are doing. So every process, for example, one process is there that you are bringing material from one source. So what is the risk you will have? So, and what are the mitigation plan? And not just prepare the mitigation plan, but just test it. So when all the supplies were stopped, So who help us? Obviously the supplier. The supplier, which supplier? Not from the outside India, but within India. So we can take the collaboration level up to the next level. Just calling the supplier, I need this material urgently, so can you support me? He said, sorry sir, no vessel is coming, we have no shipment, or we don't have, everything is washed out. So what is the next option available? So we are in hurry and urgency is there, so how you can support? So we need to take the supplier to the next level. So this will happen through the transparency and our relationship, strategic supplier relationship you can say. So if you have a good relationship with the supplier, supplier also will try to go to the next level. So from the panel members, now the concept of partner. So this concept of partners came long back, but really are we implementing it? Are we treating the supplier or our source as a partner, real partner? When he comes, is he waiting in a lobby for hours and hours or at gate? So all these things worked out, and supplier we told supplier that we have urgency, we need support. So supply check, out of all his warehouses, in few warehouses there was some material, he shifted it back. So again we said this is not enough, what you can do next for us? So we need to take that supplier to the next level, that what best he can do. So supplier checked the similar material, he sold back to one of the Chennai customer 2 months before, and he checked with that customer that material is available. So for supporting his customer, he asked that customer that can you use this material, or you can spare it for someone else. So he said we don't need it right now. So he purchased back material, sold material from his customer, and he bring to us, we tested it, and it is qualifying our norms, and after that he sold back to us. So this type of level, so you can say level 4 or level 5 level of supplier collaboration or supplier relationship level we can go, and we can make the system strong to support this disruptive nature or disruptive systems. So we need to really come up with these solutions and this long association with our sources and partners, and we can definitely come over all these type of challenges. Thank you.
So as a panel, we have a lot of experiences and we can go on and on, but just a time check whether we can take a few questions from the audience, or?
We can take just 1 or 2, but wait.
All right. So if anybody is
Questions? No questions. And, yeah, there we have a question.
No. Hello. Yeah, it's working. Thank you. So, good morning. Thank you. My name is Deepak and I'm from UPL. So, I heard categorically what we are talking about. So, when we are talking about disruption in the current model, especially after COVID, so I was actually looking for something, the whole scenario is changing in every day. We are talking about digitalization, AI is coming up to everything. I see as a procurement gentleman, as a procurement person, I see it's time to do a partnering. When Manisha was talking about partnering with the people, I see, and I want your inputs, so throw some light on that. It's a time, what I see, it's a time of partnering with them. It's time as a company, as a manufacturer, we should be investing in a vendor or in a supplier, developing them, educating them, providing training, and then, joining hands and hands together, we can reach to a destination. Yes, sustainable sourcing, of course, my intent was asking on the sustainable sourcing, but I see already session lined up for that. Probably my question will be coming on that. But when we look for the long-term sustainable sourcing on this part, it's a time already been that we should be developing a source, coming it out, then we can go for a long journey. This is one. Second, when we are doing this, probably we have 2-3 different suppliers now. So if you are going for long-term basis with one supplier, what about the other supplier? Because on the other, we should also be having the multiple sources. So either of you, especially my expectation is from Manisha, because you are catering to the FMCG industry. Challenges for you is more because inventory building and all is more towards you. So if any inputs will be value addition to me. So just, my question was long, but a short answer would be great for me. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. So very valid question, thanks for asking it. I think it's a very good point, and exactly in one of the disruptions that we could achieve as General Mills, it was involved with the co-development with the supplier. So as you rightly mentioned, there was investment. Maybe it is not into the capex or the capital investment, but in terms of knowledge investment, like teams putting in time and effort in, educating the R&D of the counterpart or the supplier, and making them figure out the best technology available, how to do it, what could be the kind of SOPs or the processes that the supplier should be running. I think these are the kind of things which the technical team imparted to the supplier to raise their standards of, making a produce or producing a particular item over a course of time, running set of different pilot trials, etc. And then co-developing the supplier. So that was a very big project. I cannot name the ingredient or the supplier, but in India, and that was one of the levers that we extended for, having a local challenger into the system. Because most of the ingredients was imported, and while we were having the supply disruption, it was very pertinent to have a very local supplier. But then the quality standards were not as per what we required as General Mills, and therefore that hand-holding of teaching the supplier how to do it, investing, getting a consultant or an expert on board, forming a team of, technical, commercial, techno-commercial people having on board, and then developing it. It's quite in line with the real partnership with supplier to raise the standard. So that was number one. I think number two question, can you just repeat?
When we have our 1 or 2 supplier from the global, like from US. So how you manage the compliance when you get a domestic supplier developing? Getting compliance, it's a bit difficult task.
Compliance, or you were also talking about the share of business, right?
True.
So once you have one supplier, now you have multiple suppliers. So I think that is the ideal for any procurement professional, to have more than one supplier. At the end of it, it depends upon the value the supplier is able to provide to the organization. Of course, just having contracts with one supplier is never ideal. So the organization usually keep 2 to 3 suppliers. Having the right opportunity to participate in an auction, or say a reverse auction or an online auction, or even it could be offline, it's a very important step. So having that opportunity to all the approved supplier is important, and then of course it depends upon what value what supplier is bringing to the table. So of course there would be a appropriate allocation strategy, and that could be in line with today's requirement, and also 3 or 5 years down the line what the requirement is going to be. And therefore, keeping those suppliers alive in the system, having some fair share of business is something that we look at intently.
Just to add a quick 2 cents, I mean, your question is very valid. Across the organization, if you could shift the business mindset from suppliers to business partners, that will really change the game. Then the entire story comes in of co-developing, hand-holding them, getting them into picture. So I mean, you just have to stop seeing them just as a supplier, and get into a business partnering mode to get it done.
And there I would like to just add, because the word disruptive has been used, and it's a very disruptive word also. And what we have realized is, what happened during COVID? It really disrupted the entire ecosystem, right? And the only way that we could react to a disruptive COVID scenario was to take support. So I think this fundamental concept of not trying to solve problems individually, but take support of the ecosystem and collaborate to drive solution. I think that's the answer for taking care of a disruptive environment. So that's a conceptual aspect I would like to further summarize. Yeah? So there can be tactical operational topics to address it, but fundamentally today we will live with disruptive situations. The only way of resolving that is to go with a supportive approach, of a collaborative approach. That's the way I would like to look at it.
Yeah, I would like to add, because you asked about the domestic supplies and the import supplies also. So nowadays what is happening every day and every month, you can say there are new notifications coming. there are restrictions being imposed for imports and other commodities. Every commodity it is happening. So we should take that approach that in any case, if these restrictions keep on coming to our product or our HSN code, so we should be ready to cater the situation. So we should not wait for that final restriction coming in and stopping all the transactions. So we should keep on evolving, and rightly said by Manisha and the panelists that we should handhold and we should develop our, because every country is doing the similar thing, because Europe is also putting some restrictions of Indian imports and Chinese imports and Russian imports, and similar happening in US also. India government is also putting restrictions for some supplies from US, Bureau of Indian Standard Certification. So all these things are evolving, and as per my global team discussion, in some years there will be more of the indigenous supplies than the every other country we are sourcing. So every time like chip manufacturing plants are getting started in India. So all this is that it is evolvement of our processes, and we should be a saksham government or saksham country to get all the things within India. So we should step by step go to that level, I think so.
Done.
I hope you're satisfied with the answer. All the speaker almost participated
question
and
lead to
gave
the
you
other.
their inputs.
One question lead to the other, so probably I'll catch them outside.
Yeah,
for
of
this
course.
question. Thank
Okay,
you.
so you have actually done 3-4 questions together, so other people didn't get chance. But anybody else, if you have any questions, we are having a break after this, so you can go and ask our speakers. Okay, with this, we are done with this insightful panel discussion, and I would like to now request our moderator to present the token of thanks to all our speakers present here. And everybody, I couldn't hear the round of applause a little louder. I want you all to give a warm round of applause to all our speakers. Thank you, everybody, for taking your valuable time out and being present here at 10th edition of Procurement Leaders Summit. Mr. Ruchir, I request you to please present this token of thanks to all our speakers.
All right.
I would like to tell you all this
Starting
token
with this
of
side.
thanks is by Kamikaze B2B Media and Wellspun One Logistics Park. Yes, you can present as you.
All right.
One by one, yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Miral.
So everyone, as we are presenting the token of thanks to our speakers, I would like to tell you that now we are having a 10-minute tea break. And once again to remind you that yes, we have the lucky draw going on. Do not forget to drop your visiting cards in the fishbowl at the registration desk. And we are having some amazing prizes, gold coins, speakers, iPads and whatnot. And we have one big grand lucky draw, which is 350cc Royal Enfield bike. Yes, you heard it right. It's going to be happening tomorrow. So do that. Yes. Now I would request Manisha ma'am to kindly present the token of thanks to our moderator, Mr. Ruchir Shrivastava. Everybody, big round of applause, because that was indeed
Thank you.
a well-woven panel discussion. On that note, thank you everybody once again. And let's have a group picture of everybody together.